So, mom is completely independent and doesn't need help with anything, except dad. She's been the caregiver, and you know it's wearing her down. But even the mention of moving dad to memory care causes panic. I'm your host, Valerie Borgman, and today we're getting creative to help keep mom and dad together. Welcome to Desperately Seeking Senior Living, a podcast for sons, daughters, grandkids, and spouses who suddenly find themselves tangled in the search for senior living and care. If you like today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and check out our doable download in today's show notes for a printable summary of the show and a bonus tip from our guest. You're listening to our doable tips, short answers to your questions. Don't see your question listed? Send us a note. Then don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an answer. Hi, and welcome to the show. I suspect that this week's episode might sound familiar to some of you. And while there are many reasons for not wanting to move to assisted living or memory care, not wanting to be separated from your spouse of 50 or 60 years is definitely one of them. So, the first thing we have to do is define together. For some, it's sleeping in the same bed. And for others, they're okay just spending the days together. There really is no right or wrong here. The second is to determine exactly how much care is actually needed. We often see spouses covering for each other or simply not wanting to ask for help. But expecting your 80-year-old mom to take care of your dad who has Alzheimer's may not be the best choice for anyone. Statistics tell us that the caregiver in these situations often ends up sicker than those they're caring for. So, one great way to find out what's really going on behind closed doors is to either spend the night yourself, which, by the way, is actually why senior living communities find a spike in move ins after the holidays, right? Everyone's home for Christmas. But if it's far away from Christmas or you're far away from their home, you can hire an in home care agency to spend a few days at the house. They'll be able to give an objective assessment about the situation and the care needs. Either way, this will give you a great idea of what the next best step might be. And maybe it's just continued in home care. This is also going to be a great way to give mom a break from caregiving. Now, we've worked with many couples in this situation who moved to assisted living, not memory care. But this option is only going to work if there's no risk of dad wandering off and leaving the community. And the other caution here is that they'll still be behind closed doors, meaning that mom is still probably going to be providing some assistance and not getting much of a break. Or let's face it, maybe not getting the best sleep either. Most times, if couples try this, it's more of a transitional move and not usually the final move. So let's look at three possible options. And by the way, these are going to vary from state to state. Option one, an adult family home. We had one couple in this situation who opted for an adult family home where there were a couple of residents who didn't have memory loss. So that meant that mom, who was more independent, would have some other residents to talk to. And this home also had two rooms available that had a Jack and Jill adjoining bathroom. So they set up one side as their living room and the other as their bedroom. And this felt more like the apartment that they had just moved from. It was still a really big transition, but the husband was able to get the care he needed and they were able to stay together until he passed. I will say that the wife actually ended up staying in that care setting. Option two, a memory care community. I have actually heard of memory care communities allowing an independent spouse to move in with their spouse who has Alzheimer's. But this is very rare. This environment will be completely secure and it's not going to feel as homey. There are also most likely not going to be any other residents that are independent. So there's not going to be anyone for mom to communicate with other than the caregivers. And that's really why this option, I think, is so rare. And also, we didn't even talk about the bathroom situation. Most memory care communities aren't going to have a bathroom situation that would make sense for someone who doesn't have Alzheimer's to live there. So it really is not the best option. Option three, just visiting. There are some communities that have independent living, assisted living, and memory care all in one campus or building, even. Some have assisted living and memory care. And so, in these situations, one spouse lives on one side or one wing of the building, while the other spouse who has memory loss lives in memory care. And in some cases, they're able to spend the entire day together and they only separate at night. So, this goes back to defining what together means. This option might actually be a really good option. And along the lines of just visiting, we also have a lot of families where mom continues to live in the home. And of course, then dad moves into that memory care community or that adult family home. Obviously, how together is that? you know, that is again defining that word. And some folks are okay with just visiting. There really is no right or wrong in these situations. It's just matching the care needs, but also finding out what's most important. Hopefully, there's something here that you hadn't even thought of, and hopefully, it makes things a little more doable. Today's episode is brought to you by ClearPath Senior Living Solutions. ClearPath helps families find assisted living, memory care, and other resources. Find our contact information in today's show notes. Check out this episode's doable download in show notes for details, including industry terms and definitions we discussed, as well as a bonus tip from our guest. Have questions or your own tips to share? Leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, make it doable.